Hello. In this video, we're going to look at adding effects on text in Photoshop, and we'll actually look at installing non-stock fonts. Pretty easy, and it also worth taking a look at. So I'm going to make a 12 by 12 inch canvas. I'm just going to go over here and add a gradient to it. Maybe I'll customize my gradient. Rather than fading to green, I'll fade it to black. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go over here and click the horizontal type tool. Now there's 4 different type tools, but the horizontal is the one we find ourselves using the most. And I'm going to go up here and just make choose the impact font and choose white. And so one of the easiest ways to add type is to just click anywhere within your canvas and type what you want. Then you can click the move tool in the upper right and you can move it around. Sometimes, maybe because of using other programs in the past, sometimes we have a tendency to do this, go get the type tool and draw out a area where we want type. And there's some cases where that's a good option, but most times we don't want to draw out the area. Instead, we want to just choose the type tool, click anywhere, and type what it is you want. And you can add it. I'll do that again. I'll make something a little longer. Go get the horizontal type tool. And type what you want. Then get the move tool, move it around. So when you want to resize type, it's much like resizing graphics or photos. You can hit Command T to free transform and pick a corner, and you can transform it proportionately. Okay. So one of the things about Photoshop that makes it easy to do is add effects to text. And when we add effects to text or type, it just takes it to a different level and allows an additional professional touch to it, and it's very easy to do. But before we get on how to add effects to text, how do we edit text if we want to change it? Or we want to, we spelled something wrong. So the easiest way to edit text is to see this right here, this T next to Hello World. That's the type T. So this is, Photoshop calls this type, not text. But if we just double click on that, it'll highlight the whole thing, and we can edit it that way. Another way to do it is to, try and click on it. But when we get multiple layers, that can become tricky. And sometimes we click here, we go fast. And if you notice, what happened is we actually created another layer. So I'm going to step backward from that. And the best way to edit text is to double click on the type T. Double click on the type T, and then you can get into exactly what text you want to edit, and hit the move tool to settle it, and we move it around. Okay, so let's look at how to add effects on text. It's pretty simple. You can right click on the layer, in this case the type we want to put an effect on, and we click blending options. Once we're in this blending options menu, it's a big menu, and the key to using this menu with text or type or graphic is to click on the word. Rather than just click the checkbox, by clicking on the word, we get more, we unleash more of the options of that particular effect. So stroke is a very, very effective effect. Now, if I just click on stroke, you may have noticed it puts a little white stroke around it, but that's about it, and that doesn't look that great. So by clicking on the actual word stroke, I pull up all these options where I can change the color of the stroke, and I can change the size of it. I can change the position of it. So an inside stroke really just puts that border, which in effect what a stroke is, puts it all over the inside of the text. Center adds a little bit an equal amount to the inside and the outside of the words or the text, but you can see it after I get it so big, it kind of starts eating away. For text or type, it's generally best if you're putting a stroke on it to do an outside stroke, and a little goes a long way. You could also do this, create kind of like a bubble effect, or right about there is good. So that's a stroke or a border, a very common text effect. Let's look at one more. I'm going to go over here to the type tool, and I'll use the same font. This is just a good font to demonstrate it. Impact is a big, heavy font, but I'll just use white again. All right. Hello there. And bring this over and make this a little bit bigger. Okay, so we just put a stroke on it. Let's try one more effect. And, again, you can click on this type T if you want to edit anything. I don't. I'll just leave it there. Click on the move tool. I'll right-click on that, go back into blending options. Instead of a stroke, this time I'll put a drop shadow, a subtle. Subtle meaning it's you look twice to see it, but it does add an effect to it. Now here we don't have much of a drop shadow yet, but if I bring this distance out a little bit and spread out a little bit, maybe I change the color to black, I can change the size of this, and a drop shadow, while it can kind of be overdone, a drop shadow, a small drop shadow, you can change the angle of it, is a great way to add an effect on text. So when we're using Photoshop going forward, we want to use text effects. Why? Because it adds another level of flair to our type, and it's very simple to do in Photoshop, pretty easy to do. And there are many others here that I encourage you to use, but here are two that we find ourselves using a lot, and that's the stroke or border and the drop shadow. So when using Photoshop, for any of the exercises we'll use in here, you'll always want to have some type of effect on text and taking that text or type to the next level.